Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Ito parang sakajang dhammo sotapoti. Ask permission from the Venerable Elders and the Sangha to speak on Dhamma, and I'd like to extend my well wishes and greetings in the Dhamma to all of you, the Sangha, the Samaneras and the Upasikas, Upasakas, and everybody who has gathered today. It was a very beautiful beginning of the Sangha of the Maha Bodhi Society in Bengaluru, leading myself and all the other Theras and Anutheras and all the Bhikkhus and Samaneras into the Dhamma hall. And I was thinking in my mind, how beautiful and how nice and how welcoming. These are all very nice and beautiful and welcoming things, and they may leave a big impression on our heart. Especially for myself, I feel very touched. And I think it's very nice, a good idea to make things beautiful. To make things beautiful and decorate them with the love and care and respect, appreciation. Like the Buddha said in the Mangala Sutta, as you know, Puja cha puja niyanang, for example, or karavo cha nivato cha etam mangala muttamang. It's a very auspicious thing to venerate that which should be venerated and to pay respects and be respectful, humble towards those things that we respect. And the word things is not quite correct, because the Buddha Dhamma Sangha is not just a thing. It shouldn't be treated something like anything else. So that's why we pay so much reverence and we make all this effort to beautify anything that we do that has a relation to the teachings of the Buddha or the Buddha himself. Sometimes maybe in the world they think we're doing too much, or we're engaging in superficial things, but these ceremonies and these acts of paying homage, they are so important in society and for ourselves. We feel touched and uplifted. Sometimes in the International Forest Monastery where I'm living in Thailand, where we have many foreigners first coming into contact with Buddhism, they think it's all right to have just the theory and the teachings, like the scriptures, or the practice without any decoration and without any embellishment and without any rites and rituals. And they wonder why we pay respect so many times. I don't know whether anybody counted this morning. We'd have to ask the young children who have already gone how many times we bowed this morning. And in the normal average worldly mind, people say that's a waste of time. And sometimes maybe we catch ourselves as well thinking it's a waste of time. If we are busy and rushing off to somewhere else, we fail to pay respects to those things that should be paid respect. And many people coming new to the monastery, they think this is all not necessary. Let's get to the essence of the teachings, the main teachings. We don't need all the decorations. But after some time, they might feel that the abstract teachings, the teachings that are theory, they don't feel inspiring. They don't feel as touching as when they are done with reverence, with giving due respect to them. And sometimes also those people like you and me that have already seen the beauty of the teachings and like to respect it, we forget it. We, for example, pay respects and think just 1, 2, 3 instead of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. And sometimes we don't even bow. For example, in the forest monastery where I live, we live in little huts spread out in the forest. We also have like bigger dwellings, but usually the monks go back to their private dwelling, and when they enter the kuti, their little dwelling, their little hut, they need to pay respects to Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. But many times monks are also rushed and they speed off to do some business, or they're too tired, or it's too early, or it's too late, it's too cold, it's too hot, and then they don't bow to Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Or if they bow, they just bow 1, 2, 3, boop, bop, as they say in Thai. It means quickly, rushed, boop, bop, and then finished, get on with the work. They don't take the time and the heart to embellish what they're doing. They're not giving it full honor. And this is what the Buddha said is pamado. Yeah, it's like negligent, sloppy. A very, very modern word is to be sloppy. And there's so many ways you can get by with being sloppy. I believe I can speak from my own experience, but looking around, I think we're all the same. Sometimes we are pamado, yeah, like a bit heedless, a bit sloppy, a bit rushed. So when we come together on an occasion like this, we can make it special in that we really give honor to the occasion, including myself. I'm the guest, and of course, like Venerable Ananda Banteji and Venerable Sukatananda Banteji, they're all like receiving a guest specially, but also the guest has to feel like honoring the hospitality and honoring the good welcome and honoring the good Dhamma, honoring the ceremonies and the effort. And I feel really touched by this interaction and by this using the form of using the ceremonies or the puja, the veneration, all together and creating a sense of samadhi, which means harmony, union and concord. Because there's so many things in our daily life that we set ourselves apart from others. We think we don't need to do that. We're smarter than others. We're quicker than others. And we don't need to do the simple practices. We can go to the higher practices. And we can go to the things that we have heard or read about, like straight away without any preparation. And without being in the right mind state, we treat the Dhamma practice sometimes like everyday things that we do. And actually, even the everyday things that we do, we should do with a heart of mindfulness and wisdom and respect, and being very clear about what we're doing and venerating each act that we do by body, speech and mind with full presence. This is a very difficult practice, but we should try and encourage each other. So we all know, for example, the training that the Buddha outlined in mindfulness, sati. Yeah, we know that the training of being not sloppy, not heedless, having mindfulness, having awareness, and being precise with our attention. And this practice of mindfulness is very essential to the teachings of the Buddha. And it is in fact the practice that the Buddha himself practiced and was awakened by, to being fully aware, the Samma Sambuddho, fully knowing, not being sloppy, not being deluded, not being too quick. The Buddha really paid attention and got very deep in his practice of mindfulness, practice of having sati, until sati was there every moment. And then there was a sense of realizing what is actually happening, not just blindly putting on autopilot, the autopilot, like the plane flies by itself, or these days a car drives by itself and then it crashes into a tree because the machine was programmed slightly wrong and you can't do anything about it. So the wise person pays attention. And even if sometimes we have some helps and some support, some tools, we still take care and still pay attention. And this is not only practicing when we're in the monastery, or practicing when we are in meditation posture, but practicing in everything that we do, to be careful, heedful, paying attention, and giving honor to the things that we do. So our teacher in Thailand, who has passed away a long time already, Ajahn Chah, and many of the forest teachers, they were meditation experts, we can say. They spent much time simplifying their life, living in nature, and being in a secluded place. We say in viveka, like far away from physical distraction, and they sometimes spend time alone a lot, and are practicing to really calm down and be very, very detailed in their attention and going very deep in their meditation. And even though these meditation teachers, they know very much about the subtleties of the mind, they still practice to continue with this very attentive mind in all postures. Postures meaning whether sitting, standing, walking, or even lying down. When they go to sleep with determining, may I have mindfulness while falling asleep, and mindfulness straight away when waking up. And this is called to be devoted to wakefulness. And this is something very special. Most people these days, they fall to sleep with their mobile phones in the hand, and they wake up with their mobile phones. Maybe not the samaneras and bhikkhus in this aram here, because Venerable Anandabhante is keeping an eye on people not getting distracted and being not heedless. But sometimes, these things creep in, and we have to be careful. So the Buddha himself, he practiced the attention to details and attention in every posture. And for those of us that have studied the wonderful, great sutta on sati, the Maha Satipatthana Sutta, you know that the Buddha talked about even going to the toilet, people should be mindful. And there's rules for the monks and the novices not to rush to the toilet. Sounds silly, sorry, but it's the amount of detail that the Buddha paid to attention, and paid attention to details. The amount of attention that Buddha paid to details is amazing. And if we were able to do that, we would be like a real presence for others. We would be very focused, and we would be very grounded, and as the Buddha says, unshakable by worldly winds. You know the worldly winds? The lokadhamma, like the things about the world, like fame, disrepute. Somehow people get famous, and then later on they get negative comments on social media and they crash. So fame and disrepute, gain and loss. Some people are rich and then they play around with their money, and then suddenly they lose everything, or they get some kind of disease, and they can't even use the money anymore. So from gain comes loss, and then from fame comes disrepute, and then from being prominent, sometimes people are obscure and they are not visible anymore, and they seem to be forgotten. Actually, it's quite nice to be forgotten, and you can be a nobody and quietly practice. So, and then there is the whole area of happiness and suffering, where people really invest a lot of interest. Everybody wants to be happy, but people take the worldly kinds of happiness. For example, things that you can consume, like a good meal or a good movie. And the samaneras and the bhikkhus were not in that area. We eat only until midday, and then also we don't watch movies. Basically, we're already cutting this out, but there's still other things that we consume through the eye, through the ear, through the nose, through the tongue, and through the body, and through the mind. Sometimes the mind even fantasizes. For example, we go to sleep without sati, and the mind dreams a lot, and then we don't even know anymore what is real and what is not dream, and our dreams carry on in our daily life. We wish this and we wish that, and we just fantasize and start making plans which are not realistic. So we get blown away by the worldly winds, the ways of thinking that are like good for the world, but not good for the heart, not good for the Dhamma, and not good for the presence of mind and for the groundedness in one's life. So when the Buddha said we practice in all postures, whether sitting, standing, walking or lying down, he really meant it, and he gave a lot of instructions, and I believe all of us have got the opportunity every now and again and are making use of it to practice meditation, practice to train oneself in awareness and be able to be focused and dedicated to the things that we do. If we have this approach that it all counts on our dedication of mind, dedication of heart, and the spirit in which we are doing things, if we have this very firm grounding in that, then actually we can say we can practice wherever we are, whether we are sitting in formal meditation or whether we're standing up and going to the bathroom afterwards, or like whether, like here, we are focused now and we have had this beautiful ceremony helping us to focus and helping us to get into the attentive and and into the mode of mind that really is dedicated. After we have done all these program and all these ceremonies and all the meditation, all the practice of mindfulness, sometimes we get up and start talking, and then we start eating, and then we start quarreling. And that's the same everywhere, like in my monastery as well, like people are very quiet before the meal when the Ajahn, the Acharya teaches, and very focused, and everybody feels it's very special, very auspicious. I'm so fortunate, today is my birthday, or today is a special day because I think of somebody who has passed away. I want to make punya, I'm dedicated. Everybody is focused as long as the ceremonies are there, and because the ceremonies help to focus and they help to uplift the mind and make it very clear. But then afterwards we get up and we start quarreling with each other or talking silly things. Like I said to the kids, don't be silly, but like many grown-up people are silly. Just talk. And then sometimes we say, okay, let's stop this and we will be mindful all through the day. So there are meditation courses where we expand the formal practice to say, okay, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, we're actually very quiet. We don't talk at all. And we have to hand in our mobile phones, so make sure that we don't get on any chats or so. And people find that very difficult. But when they are able to do it, then actually they see the benefit, how grounded one is suddenly and how much attention to detail one can have. This is a training where we try to experience something that is more deep than we usually do. Not to be superficial. That's also a good translation for appamado. Yeah, not be superficial. Don't just chat around and do the kind of usual things when you talk with people. It's superficial. You want something from them. You try to use the worldly dhammas. Yeah, can I get something from this person? I talk him or her into it. And later we forgot what we said, or maybe we weren't even truthful to what we were intending. Maybe we're actually manipulating people. So we have to be very careful and very heedful when paying attention. And then if we are able to do this, then I think the difficulties that we face in life will be less. Of course, we cannot control everything, and it would be also quite silly, overestimating oneself to think through managing all the activities. One could optimize them into something where there's no errors and there's no problems. And even the Buddha, like he became old and sick, and there were unforeseen incidents that the Buddha had to react to. It's not like the mindful person can control everything, so it works perfectly. This is important to understand, because we are meditating in order to prepare ourselves to be able to take things that suddenly arise, but we wish to not be shaken by them. We wish to not start losing our mindfulness. We can keep to our understanding of the situation. We keep cool, as they say in Thai language. They use the word cool for somebody who's very attentive and is not hot-hearted, doesn't jump to quick conclusions or doesn't get upset or so. So we can keep mindfulness so that we are steady and we can watch what's happening. Even in meditation, sometimes things don't go the way we want to. Even though we're sitting still and there's not much happening, we've already given away our mobile phones and we've already reserved time, maybe 1 hour, maybe a full day, maybe 10 days. But even then, our mind sometimes gets disturbed. It's not that everything goes smoothly and we have a recipe for success. We have to be very careful because there are many unforeseen things and many things that come from past actions as well. For example, if we've been very self-centered, promoting ourselves a lot and making a lot of promises and boastful, and then maybe we're so smart and can manipulate everybody into believing us and thinking this man or this woman really knows stuff and is really clever and is capable and so forth. But the person has been exaggerating and has been putting up a little bit of a show according to the worldly things of wanting to be famous, wanting to be recognized. Like sometimes politicians are like that, sometimes movie stars are like that, sometimes actors are like that, sometimes musicians even are like that. And they make a big show and present themselves. Maybe also in speech when we talk with people, many times we're not 100% moderate and truthful. Sometimes we exaggerate. And if we come from such a mindset of promoting ourselves, being special, and then we want to sit down and be quiet, I think it's quite likely that there's some remorse coming up and some feeling of, I'm not feeling quite sure. I'm not so secure about what I said to this and that person. Maybe even a conversation comes up where one has promised something that was too much and cannot keep the promise. So the mind then brings it back. We're sitting there wanting to be peaceful, mindful of everything that comes, and suddenly doubt comes out, or say restlessness, thinking, I need to correct this. I need to go call so-and-so because what I said wasn't quite right. That's already good that somebody feels remorse in a sense, but you can say it's a hindrance when we meditate. You cannot just stop the habits of being so grand and great and self-centered and then suddenly become selfless, suddenly become peaceful. So when we sit down, sometimes it's quite bitter. We have to accept that there are obstacles in the way we lead our lives and the way we present ourselves, the way we conceive ourselves, the way we see ourselves. And then, honestly, going back to saying, never mind. After the meditation, I'll be refreshed, I'll be cooled down, and then I can be better. I can be more honest, I can be more direct, I can be more heedful, I can be more attentive, and I don't need to talk so much, and I don't need to say more than is real, and I can be humble and careful. And these are very, very good effects of the meditation. Maybe the meditation wasn't very peaceful, but it sets us into the right state of mind for practicing properly after the meditation. When we get up then we are feeling very light and easy, and there's no urge of telling anything to anybody. We're very happy in ourselves. So these are benefits of sitting down and letting things be and having time to let them settle. And then if we want to further our detailed attention, we gather more and more of this double way of practice. One, quiet when we sit down, and one, active when we are with others, with people around us or in daily life, where we need to be careful and very moderate and restrained. And then when we sit down, maybe we can find more peace or find a way of settling into deeper levels of our inner heart, and the way we feel about life then becomes much more clear. So practicing in daily life is a support for practicing on the meditation seat or practicing in special occasions. We have the normal things that we do, like getting up early and going to the washroom and then having breakfast and then getting maybe in the bus or the metro or in the car and then meeting colleagues, friends, other students. And we always have to be very, very careful not to do too much so that we don't spoil the peace that we so much value, so that we are careful. And if we can do that much, then just be attentive while we're sitting, and then when we get up and do other things, I think that's a great gain already and will help us a lot. And also, I think we gain a lot of respect by other people. Other people will see that this person is somewhat more sincere than others, somewhat more honest than others, somebody who's got piya vaca, like beautiful speech, nice things to say, and maybe the person also is able to honor the other persons more. Be a good friend in the Dhamma, somebody who is like endearing, piya, like very, very lovely. And everybody finds it's good to get along with this person because this person is not stubborn, it's not conceited. And then when you meet like somebody has got that groundedness in meditation, maybe he's also not superficial, it's very profound in what he says. For example, if we hear about the suffering of another person, we can take it to the heart and find a good way of counseling or giving back some feedback or advice to other people, and also listening to others. So many times people don't listen anymore. If we're good in meditation, then we can open our ears and be receiving other people more than the worldly way where people think about themselves, think what they need to do. We can open ourselves and have that spaciousness and awareness and allow other people to load off a bit of their dukkha, of their suffering, and we can take it and make sense of it and maybe support the other person. And then if we meditate and are able to sit down quietly every day a little bit, or maybe more than a little bit, as up to each person's phase of life, then we maybe are able then also to cut down the things that are a bit useless, because we don't actually feel interested so much in them. Say, for example, I remember when I was a student in Berlin before I ordained, I remember like the more I meditated, the less I wanted to go out to pubs and start talking with other people. I thought like after studying, it's better to go home and have a quiet evening. Sometimes I might meditate, sometimes I might read a book, sometimes I might just kind of relax a little bit and then fall asleep. Whereas the others, like they sometimes, they drink even alcohol or excessively get drunk and silly and rude, and I just didn't find so much pull to that. But it takes a little bit of courage then to say, I'm not doing this because I know it's it's better for me just to do my pace and be kind of like normal and not manipulated by all these special parties and or like all night entertainment or so. I noticed I get less and less like interested in it. Yet I feel I was more profound in my feelings towards life, and also more profound in my feelings towards my friends, my fellow students. I'm not sure, of course, but I felt I can take a conversation much better rather than when you're in a pub or a club or I don't know what kind of restaurants or eateries you go to, but like these things sometimes are so noisy you can't even pay attention to what the other person says. And I just felt, no, that's not really worthy of a friendship to go to these places. So cutting out the useless stuff and not get high on saying, oh, let's go there and it's so much fun. A wise person says, yeah, maybe some other time. You don't have to say no. You can say maybe not today, and that's also like a good way. Just postpone the silly things. Don't say I'll cut it out completely. You can say not now, maybe next time. So, and then for some reason there is no next time because there's never really a good opportunity, not a good way of justifying to do silly things. You postpone it a little bit and say, no, I'd rather go home today. Or like, I was planning to have a nice evening with my partner. It's much nicer than sitting in a fully crowded place where people are yelling at each other and drinking. So this is like, on my last year, I felt my last year in as a student in Berlin. Berlin is a big city like Bengaluru or like Delhi or even Hyderabad. Hyderabad is also a big city, and modern life is the same everywhere. People just like to have fun, and then they get into arguments, and then they even like sometimes they even split up with their partners, which they used to be happy together for a long time, just because of this silly stuff that they do in the evening. And then yeah, like I was like my last New Year's party, I was just thinking, what's all this about? I don't want to be part of this anymore. Maybe this can be my last New Year party. And I was planning to go to Wat Ven.Ajahn, thinking, okay, once I'm in Wat Ven.Ajahn, I'll start a new life. And basically, I want to do something more profound. And then when I finally left, it was in April. Some of my friends said, oh, what a pity, we won't be able to go to this and that pub anymore. And said, never mind, no problem. And then actually people know a lot about Buddhism, even in Germany, or like you'll see like even in modern cities like Bengaluru, then people know a lot about Buddhism. For example, the word Nibbana, which is super high. It's a very, very, very profound word. It gets used everywhere. I don't think there's a perfume that's called Nibbana, but there's a rock band that's called Nibbana. I've never listened to them actually, but I heard there's a rock band called Nirvana. And I think the perfume is called Samsara. Maybe. Never mind, like Buddhist terms are popular and people actually do know a little about them. And so one of my friends said, so are you going to search for Nibbana? I'd love to, but I think it's very far away. It's not so easy. I mean, like if you study a bit about Buddhism, it's very profound. It's not that you can just travel to Thailand, take an airplane, and arrive at the monastery and book a course on Nibbana, and there you have it. And then you're a graduate, and then you go back and enjoy life again. Not like that. So they even like know the terms Nibbana or the word Buddha. So many people know the Buddha, even in a casual context, and it's very popular, I would say, in Europe, America, and say modern countries like that aren't Buddhist countries. People do know the Buddha, and they actually would like to respect him. I've seen many times that people actually pause for a moment when one talks about something and says, "I'm a Buddhist," and they think, "Oh, interesting." They're kind of a bit like. They're a bit shocked in a positive way. They're a bit touched by it. Oh, there's somebody who's a Buddhist. Because Buddhism has got a very positive reputation in Western society. Because I think it's a religion that is very helpful for people to be genuine and authentic with their life. And it also, helps with many world problems that people face, like aggression, war, peace. It's a religion of peace, and it's considered to be a religion that is very tolerant. So it's got a very good reputation, and not only because of all the Buddha movies and the Netflix series, but the Buddha basically is almost like an archetype. Do you know the word archetype? Like a model, the ideal of the perfect sage, somebody who's really wise. And if I'm not able to explain to my fellow students, which I studied together with in Germany, if I wasn't able to explain what all this interest for meditation and the Buddha and also, so to say, Nibbana is about, it's very profound. So I'm not always can give a full Dhamma talk or sermon. They would rather run away. But I can very simply say the Buddha is the most wise person, the wisest person on earth. You can imagine just wisdom. If somebody asks, what are you doing when you're a monk? Or what are you doing when you're a samanera, or when you're an anagarika, or what are you doing when you're an upasika, an upasaka? You can say, I'm practicing to develop wisdom. Because wisdom is universal, something that people really recognize, a very, very profound understanding of the truth. And wisdom doesn't have the connotation of a classic religion, where people in Europe, America, sometimes they're a bit tired of their old religions, because many times their old religions are religions where you have to believe. You have to believe in some very supreme being that saves human being. And the modern people many times say, actually, I don't see that happening. I've been praying to God so many times, or I've been asked to pray to God from my parents. On a Sunday, they dragged me to church, and I was praying to God for good grades in school, and I never got them. And they're a bit disillusioned, and religion doesn't have such a good reputation anymore. But if you talk about wisdom, people say, "Wow, okay, that's good," and explain that the Buddha was a wise person. And it's true. If we ask our experts in the Maha Bodhi Society study program of Pali and the Suttas, the awakening of the Buddha took place because of wisdom, because of panya. Panya, like the wisdom to see things as they are realistically, both the happy things and also the sad things. Both the things that we like and also the things that we don't like. And I would say also this day and age, if we meet some of the old generation of teachers, for example, Varabante Buddharakkhita Mahathero, for those that have been able to meet him, I'm sure you have a feeling this is a wise person. And this is somebody who does as he speaks and speaks as he does, which is actually one of the epitaphs of the Buddha. Like somebody who doesn't pretend, but takes things for real, like the way they are in nature, in human nature, in the nature of the mind. Is a wise person. And wisdom is liberating. We don't have a problem if we are wise enough to see what's happening. We get the solution of the problem through our understanding, through our reflection on the problem, and through our investigation. These are all attributes of the Buddha Dhamma, which are so beautiful and so helpful for modern world. It's not a religion that promises people salvation through some kind of gesture of worship. Say, for example, when we do the ceremonies this morning, it's not for worshipping or asking anything. It's not for, in that sense, praying. Praying is usually a dialogue with some higher being, and you make a dialogue and say, I will always be good, and may I get a reward for that? Or something like that. Or I offer this banana, I offer this apple, or I offer this banknote. May I get something as a reward for that? That's not the Buddha Dhamma. It's really not the essence of the teaching of the Buddha, because it doesn't help you create wisdom. This kind of bargain. I know there's a lot of bargain going on in a busy city like Bengaluru, like there's business, there's IT, and there's like modern life, there's price tags everywhere, and you have to bargain. Even going on a tuk-tuk, you have to bargain. I noticed. It's like there are no fixed prices. You have to be smart in bargaining. So this kind of way of economically thinking, I invest this and I get that back. That's not really the wisdom part of Buddha. So there is like what we were doing this morning is veneration, is like paying respects, putting yourself in an observer seat. Like you see, like you look at the image of a wise person, you try to investigate and you try to give attention to that which is really valuable, and you embellish it a little bit to help uplift. But it's not a deal where you can say, so how many times did we bow this morning? Let's say maybe we bowed about 45 times this morning. 3 times, 15 times, 3 times, could be, including the Chetya and the Bodhi tree. So we didn't ask anything from the Bodhi tree. We just said, I admire the quality of the Buddha being awakened under the Bodhi tree. I admire the Dhamma that he found there. And I admire those that have practiced like the Buddha. It's a reverence. It's like a feeling of giving credit. We say, I give credit to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, not I invest something into the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. I don't want anything in return. I trust the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. I have faith. This sounds promising. I want to be learning from that. I want to be part of that. I would like to have a bit of the Buddha's wisdom. It's not a deal. So out of these, let's say 45 prostrations, with just simply counting from 1 to 45, you won't get any good karma. It's very, very different than other religions where they say, okay, through performing a sacrifice or an offering or so, you get the basically stairway to heaven. It's not like that. It's like ultimately for us, we aspire to something that is much more deep, and it has to come from the heart. If we have bowed 45 times truly to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, I would say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Really wonderful. If we fully understand every bow that we have done this morning, we understand what it really means to be a Buddha, and what it really means, what the Sangha is, what we really the Dhamma is, and what the Sangha is. I would say sadhu. We may have even understood part of the teachings already. We may be already seeing light at the end of the tunnel. If we can manage to keep that awareness, what is really essential in the things that we do by body, speech, and mind, and if we dedicate them to full awareness and full wisdom and full veneration of that which is already aware and which we understand is a symbol or an example of a truly wise being, then I think we benefit in that same direction. So many of my friends in Germany, those friends that are still interested in religion, they have this apprehension that they're afraid of people buying into some cult where you get rewarded for the more worship you do, and the higher you go up in the religious hierarchy. Yeah, they have a very much suspicion, because Germany used to be the country 500 years ago where Protestant religion started. Like they were aware of all the, let's say, corruption in the church, and so since 500 years there is an awareness. Okay, if you do something corrupt, basically, you're not going to go to heaven. You're not going to get religious liberation, let's put it like that. So there's like many people, they're kind of suspicious when they see myself bow. I bow to a Buddha image, for example. They say that's idol worshipping. Idol meaning IDOL, the kind of like you're like a figure, a statue. Or like some people have the background of saying you shouldn't bow to a golden image. And I don't mind, because I don't bow to the gold. I would bow to a plastic Buddha image. Honestly. And we have plastic Buddha images these days. They're made out of fiber. You can easily cast them. They're very beautiful. It doesn't matter what it is made out of. The essence is, this is a symbol of the Buddha. And the Buddha we learn about. Who was the Buddha? He was a man that lived in India. Yeah, and he came from Kapilavatthu, from Nepal, and walked all the way across the country to find liberation, and developed this wisdom. And he understood the laws of nature. He's somebody who really penetrated, was grounded and clear enough in his awareness to understand what really matters in life. How do people become unhappy? How do people become miserable? How do people deal with the difficulties in life? For example, old age, sickness, death. All of us are educated in the Buddha's teachings, so we know a lot about the life of the Buddha. And being in India, we know that the Buddha was a human being who practiced as an ascetic, as somebody who's a samana, yeah, like a wandering ascetic, somebody who's left the luxurious life and then said, I will search for the truth. I will search, I will not stop until I found wisdom, until I found what makes people suffering, what makes myself suffering, where does all this misery come from? Maybe this is more modern way of saying it, and I'm pretty sure there's better ways of translating it. But in the essence, I would say, forgive me for the casual word, but I think the Bodhisattva, when he left the palace, he was fed up with all the superficiality of life in a pleasant, luxurious setting. He thought there must be something more. Even people in good situations and high class living, they also experience old age, sickness, and death, and they have no clue about how to deal with it. Because they put their money on the wrong horse somehow. They invested into all the things they can conduce and consume and make their life more pleasant, but never really understood how the mind gets happy without things that you can buy or things that you can eat or things that you can consume. So I think the Buddha was on a search of like really getting away from the superficiality of society to something profound. And of course he first didn't know what to do, how to find it, but he had the feeling, I have to leave behind all the silly things that people are getting carried away with. And that's why he lived like lonely out in nature, and he reverted to places that were quiet, and started just contemplating what is happening. Well, how does old age, sickness, and death arise, and how does it affect one? So when we bow to the Buddha, we keep this in mind, that we're not bowing to some divine goddess that has all the power to make our life happy. It's not true. The Buddha cannot make our life happy. It is us following the Buddha that can make our life happy. And wisdom has to come from ourselves. The Buddha said, Akataro Tathagata. The Tathagata is just the one who tells you. It's like the teacher. The teacher tells you, here's the problem. And even if he gave you the answer, you wouldn't have the happy feeling of having answered it by yourself. If the Buddha says, okay, the answer to all the problems are the Four Noble Truths, or the Trilakkhana, the three characteristics, then we can repeat it. But if we haven't developed the wisdom by ourselves, we don't feel the release of dukkha. So we have to work on that and emulate the path of the Buddha. So when we bow to Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, then we emulate the qualities and the wisdom of the Buddha. So that's really worth celebrating. And since this world outside sometimes is quite dark and it feels quite threatening every now and again when we watch the news or we hear about problems, and all the problems are so big these days, like thinking about all the wars that take place. and all the injustice that takes place, and also all the problems in the environment that takes place. So I think it is a very nice thing then to celebrate that we are coming together in a positive situation, that we're all happy about having found the teachings of the Buddha and being able to venerate something that we really respect, and taking away the superficiality. We wholeheartedly offer flowers and incense to something that is meaningful, something that carries a very, very profound message. It's not a deal, it's more or less an expression of our gratitude and our appreciation of the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, our veneration. So I think that's very nice to celebrate it, and the reception I have been receiving from all of you is truly uplifting, and it gives us a sense of friendship in trying to find wisdom, each and everybody by ourselves, but all united through the good example of the Buddha, who we all honor. And so many times we cannot rely really on the direct say transmission. Say, for example, I wasn't present when Venerable Ajahn Chah was around, and many of you weren't present when Venerable Varabante Buddharakkhita Mahathero was still around, but we still have the teachings, we still have the wisdom of these people, and things that I just mentioned many times. I think Ajahn Chah or Venerable Varabante would be very proud of seeing us together, because we're still honoring the things that are really important and that he himself found very helpful for all of us. So if we unite in that spirit, it's not done because we want to do something special, but because we share a good guidance and we give each other support in the difficulties of making this path something that is really present for everyone. So when we practice, let's keep in mind not to do things superficially, do them profoundly, have mindfulness, have attention, and arrive at wisdom. And if we only get a small glimpse of the wisdom of the Buddha, only a tiny little bit, then that's already a great thing in the world, because so many people have no clue. And if you have a tiny bit, then already it can nourish our hearts to then continue walking this path and continue establishing ourselves in mindfulness, in not being heedless, and being somebody who's really profound and wise eventually. So this is my offering of Dhamma for today. May it serve all of us on this beautiful path, and this beautiful occasion, in this beautiful country, in the land of the Buddha. May we all walk in the footsteps of the noble enlightened Sammasambuddha.